My name is Gordon and welcome to FPL Galaxy. What a shambolic game week this has been. Yes, I'm talking about game week 13 and it just shows how varying the points that we've had. Of course, some of you were above 50, but the other pack where I belonged got less than 50. Of course, that is due to the fact that some of us only had maybe one or two players that had returns, that is on the 11 players that are on the pitch. And for you who managed to score points more than 50, you probably, and I say most certainly, had 3 players returning for you. And the likes of Andreas, the differential players, Castagna and Ward came in and rescued your game week. On the other hand, some of us only had the usual players, and the most unlike events happened in this game week. So with no further ado, guys, let's go straight into review how my team did, the transfer that I have prepared going into game week 14, and then do my game week 14 team selection. So my point summary is there, how far I've gone this season, and just shows you how tricky this game week was. I scored game week points of 49, which was pretty bad because only 2 players in my team returned. And had I not even just had a correct captain, things would have been worse than that because I would have been in the 30s easily. And I feel bad for people that went Salah over Haaland because they found themselves probably in the 30s if they only had an extra player who returned. Yeah, then those are the points there, the overall points I'm at right now, 688. Not so good, but we are progressing towards that goal of breaking into the top million. Yeah, it's tricky this season because we're talking about, first of all, breaking into the top million and then aiming higher. So that is the goal right now. So my overall ranking has dropped. It has come down to that, 2,323,872. By saying it has dropped, it means it's bad. It has become worse than it was previously, because previously I was sitting at 2,039,000, somewhere there. So I had a rank drop of about 288k, but this is where I got. It would have been worse than that. Like I was saying, if I went against captaining HAALAND, shows you just how important it is to have a proper captain pick, because such variations are the ones that cause huge differences to what your game week may be, or how good it will be or bad it will be, things like that. Of course, I went into this game week with only one transfer made, a total of about 11. Those are the funds I went in with. Now let's go into my team. It's going to be a quick one because my team didn't do so well. There isn't so much to show for. There are so many 2s and 1s in there. So in goal, I went with Ray as usual. He's my number 1 goalkeeper, and unfortunately so, my other goalkeeper is the one that returned, Ward, as you'll be able to see. So Ray in goal, they were really battered, and by they I mean Brentford. Brentford was really battered. It was bad. Raya was on the receiving side of that battering, and so he only managed to get save points, 7 saves. It was quite incredible in that match. Had they kept a clean sheet, he would have had 3 bonus points easily. So that's how come he got a 2 there. They conceded 4 goals. What is this? Aston Villa came up with a freak performance. They had their former manager now, that is Steven Gerrard, sacked, and now the following match they played came up with some freak performances. Brentford was on the receiving side of that battering, and unfortunately they conceded 4. The defenders in that team, Raya inclusive, of course, had -2 to their points, but Raya saved himself by gaining 2 from the save points. Going forward, the other defenders is Cancelo, Perisic and Trippier. Cancelo and Trippier, of course, I expected this to happen because they were facing teams that could score against them. Cancelo, first of all, they played against Brighton. and so I knew Brighton would be able to do something against them. I was just hoping there could be some assist or something, but it didn't happen. You know, it's football. You don't expect defenders to assist week in, week out. Those assists we get actually not expected at certain times. So when they do happen, they come as a big hose. So that's what happened. Trippier there also, yeah, they conceded a goal because they were playing against Spurs. They conceded a goal against my other player, and so I was quite fortunate. Perisic was a disappointing one. Not his fault, of course. It's the fault of the manager, who is also playing some sort of roulette in his team, that is Conte. So that's why I have to think of moving him on, because I don't like these one pointers. Because of this one pointer, I found myself below 50 points, because I had a benched player who could have come in place of a Perisic who didn't start. I was hoping he would start, but when he didn't start, I knew things were going to be bad, as he would come in with that one pointer, the second half cameo one pointer that he usually does. I think I've received about 3 of these this season, so it's really bad. Yeah, so going forward now, the midfielders, there's Mount there, Zaha, Foden, and Martinelli. Let's start with Foden first of all. I removed Trossard for Foden. Trossard went on to score. He's the guy that wiped out the City clean sheet. Sorry, Cancelo. So Foden is the person that I brought in place of Trossard. And what did Trossard do? He went on to score. So I lost points from Trossard, or from this transfer rather. So this transfer ended up in negatives, because I made a transfer which I was hoping I would get points from. But like I mentioned, the Pep roulette, Pep came in with his own kind of thinking. You can't outdo Pep. You can't outthink him. Whatever you're thinking of, just do away with it. The only player you would say in the Premier League is nailed with that City team right now is the likes of Ederson and Haaland to some extent, because he has played in each and every match after game week 1. Yeah, so then maybe Cancelo, because he too is in that category. Foden was in that category until this time when so many people brought him in, and then he went on to blank. A 1 pointer, second half cameo. Unfortunately, we had to take that bitter pill. Yeah, then there's Martinelli there. They were playing against Southampton. They conceded a goal after they had scored themselves with a proper, beautiful Granit Xhaka goal. And so Martinelli didn't do anything there. No assist this time around, no goal. And so he sat there without any return. Zaha, on the other hand, he picked up a yellow card, and that's how he found himself getting a 1 point, no return, of course. And so Crystal Palace in this match, they didn't have any return. If Zaha doesn't perform well, you expect that Crystal Palace haven't performed well as an entirety, because he's the talisman in that team. Mount, they were playing against Manchester United, and I should say Manchester United have really improved. Whatever Ten Hag is doing there is working really well, because defensively, Manchester United are not a kind of team that is an easy pushover anymore, of course, with the exception of Manchester City, who know nothing about any defensive team. They beat whatever team that is brought to them, how defensive that team can be. They managed to score. It's only Liverpool that have held them from scoring this season. I think, yeah, that's how come Haaland blanked in that game week. The only game week he didn't have any return is against Liverpool. Then forward, I've talked about Haaland so many times, and there he goes. He's the man that saved this game week to some extent, because of course the game week was bad, but he helped me salvage something out of this game week. Yeah, he's the most owned player, sitting around 80 something, and so whatever points you get from him, especially that so many people are captaining him, they do not take you anywhere in terms of ranking, but it's a protection, because you'll be moving with the pack. With so many other differentials that you may have, you'll be making progress. Then there's Kane there. Like I mentioned, Trippier lost points, and I lost those points to Kane, so it was just like a transfer of points from one player to another, and I was happy it was Kane, because Kane at this particular time is more like a differential for me. Not so many people own Kane, and so the Kane points I'm getting are the ones that are actually cushioning any rank drops that I tend to have. Jesus is one player that people are eyeballing right now to have him out of their teams for reasons that are quite clear, because he has kind of dipped in terms of goal scoring threat. He's having so many chances, but the execution, the killer move, is what he's not having anymore. Most people are transferring him out in this game week, but I feel that's a mistake that people are making. Yeah, of course they could be moving him for a better player like Haaland, maybe for some, but for those that are making luxurious moves just for the sake of having him out of their teams because they feel he's not performing, there is a little bit of some impatience there. So I'll talk about that later in the team selection, reason why you shouldn't move him on just yet. Now the bench, this is where the depressing part came in game week 13, because 9 of the other players that haven't returned couldn't even outscore the 3 players that came in with points on the bench. This is how good the bench did this week. Now for starters, we have Ward, who came in with an 8-pointer, save points, a clean sheet, and there he goes. Ward is really doing amazing stuff in that Leicester goal posts, and that's what he managed to do. So for people that went with Ward over their usual first choice goalkeepers, fair play to you guys. You believed in the man and you have been rewarded, pun intended. So there is Andreas there with a 10-pointer, his highest score of the season, and unfortunately he's sitting on my bench. I couldn't have even thought for a million times that Andreas would have such returns, and the likes of my other players like Mount, Zaha, Foden would be the ones to blank. Combine all these players, they do not even come close to the points that Andreas has gotten. This just shows how bad this game week has been. Williams is the player that I was talking about, who could have come through on the spot that Perisic could have left had he not played entirely. But Conte had his own plans, gave us that 1 point to swallow up down our throats. But unfortunately, Williams is another player on the bench who had to sit there, and these points all go down in the bin. So my bench was made up of about 24 points. Ridiculous. So this is FPL. You can only project so much. What happens after the deadline, you have no control over. So you cannot beat yourself so much about what happens after that deadline arrives. Make the good choices, and what happens after that, you have no control over. Because what happens if Haaland started the match and then he limps off after a minute or two? Yeah, you made a good call playing against a weak side, but then you do not know what will happen in reality, and this is where we say we do not have control over the outcome. All we can do is make the good choices, the good calls, but what happens is left now for us to see and watch. So this has been my game week 13 team review, a shambolic one like I mentioned, but let's move on. Let's go now to the transfer that I've made going into game week 14, and I've brought in my guy Dalo, and Zinchenko leaves. So this is more of a money and futuristic move, because I'm looking to gaining funds from Dalo and avoiding any loss in funds from Zinchenko, because he's still injured, so he's just sitting on the bench. He may keep on losing value as he has been doing on the bench. Of course, I haven't lost more than I got him at, and so he sits at 5 million right now, but he may even drop further, looking at maybe the number of players, the number of people that are moving him on to other players. So Dalo, I brought him in at 4.6. He has actually risen to 4.7 now, so I've actually gained 0.1 already from him. Manchester United are a team that are playing so well in the recent weeks. They've galvanized so well. That defense is looking well structured. They know what they're doing. So I would love to have a guy from there who is actually ticking so well. His activity in that Manchester United backline is so high. He's getting the bonus points whenever they keep a clean sheet, and there is potential for him to assist. He's got 1 assist this season so far, and he could have had more of such, but you just know how the real game goes. expected assist is not equal to the assist actually made, but we hope he can have more of those. Now, going into my team selection, this is the team I go in with, guys. So starting with, of course, the transfers and the funds that I have in the bank. I've made one transfer, accumulating to about 12 this season. I'm quite patient with the transfers. I haven't made any hits so far, and probably this is what is helping me to stay at pace with the rank rises and the rank drops. I'm not dropping so much in rank because I'm not taking in those hits. Then my squad value has risen from the last time. It was 102.7 in the squad value, and in bank I had 0.2. So in total it was 102.9, but now it has risen to about 103.6. So I'm doing so well. When it comes to a time when I'm going to have to use that wild card, I'm going to have so much to use. So I will make up a very strong team. If I do, I'll try and move in some players that I do not want, or players that I want to have in my team. So now going in goal, this is my game week 14 team selection. I go in with Raya. He's the better choice keeper this game week by far. So he's playing Wolves at home, so hopefully he's going to get in those save points before he concedes any unexpected goals from this one. Then in defense, going with Cancelo playing against Leicester away, but we expect them to put on a show here. Then Perisic plays against Bournemouth. Then there's Trippier there playing against Aston Villa. My midfielders, the same midfielders that I had last week, but this time around hoping they'll be able to come in with the goods. Hopefully even just two of them giving us some points will be really motivating to go forward, because that will mean you may be able to break the 50 points barrier. So there's Mount there playing against Brighton. We know Brighton is an attacking team, so Mount may be able to get something from that one. Zaha playing against Southampton, and Zaha also may be able to get something also. Foden, like we mentioned, disappointed many of us. We picked him up in a week we thought he would be able to destroy Brighton, but unfortunately Pep had his own ideas. But this time around, we have an opportunity to be vindicated for this move that we had made. So he's playing Leicester, and so hopefully he's going to start in this one. That's why I've put the vice captaincy on him, because as you'll be able to see, HAALAND has been flagged at 75% chance of playing. He was seen in some video clip limping, so hopefully it's not so bad to an extent that he misses out entirely. But if he does, Foden is the man that I would love to put that vice captaincy on, because I know if he starts and he plays, he's going to come in with some proper goods in that Manchester City team playing against Leicester. Martinelli is another player who has got a brilliant home fixture against Nottingham Forest, a team that have been conceding goals for fun. But of course, he's on paper. We do not know what Henderson will bring this time around, as he's been putting on some freak performances also, as he kept Liverpool to a goalless loss. So we'll see what happens. My front line remains unchanged. There's HAALAND there, who is the captain. I will captain HAALAND for as long as he is alive, and that's how it goes. You never know what Pep has in mind. You remove a player because there is that flag on there, the yellow flagged a chance of playing, and then you just find him on the lineup, starting lineup. So wouldn't want to be disappointed. So HAALAND is still the captain, and so that's why I have vice captain his counterpart, his teammate. Ken has a wonderful fixture this game week. He's playing against Bournemouth. They were playing on Monday, and their first choice goalkeeper Neto had some knock. Not so sure whether he's going to play this one, and also Solanke equally came off injured. So I'm not so sure what's going to happen to him, and that's why Ken remains a very good prospect in this fixture. Jesus, like I was mentioning, this wouldn't be the best time to move him on, because he faces Nottingham Forest, arguably the best fixture that they have this season. So they're playing at home, and so you'd want to stick with him. Going on my bench, Ward of course is there playing against Manchester City, and that's why You wouldn't even want to bet on him getting those points for you. Andreas is second on my bench after a while, but first of course to come in for my playing players. If at all Haaland misses, Andreas is the guy for me. Dalo I've benched because I'm going for Perisic this time around. The last match is going to play for me, and that's why he's there. Neco Williams plays against Arsenal, and this one is an easy one. Finally, I would like to make a shout of players that I feel may be able to do well, and the first one being Almiron. At that price, he's easily a go-to player, doing so well, and he's second in points overall for all midfielders only to KDB, that is De Bruyne. He's doing so well and he's got the fixtures to continue performing. Finally, there's Granit Xhaka there, who is doing so well. He's scored a number of goals and assists, and he's up there in points overall. And he's facing Nottingham Forest in this one. The Chelsea one is going to be tricky, but thereafter there's the Wolves match. So this has been it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you're enjoying what you're watching, please do subscribe. Follow me at FPL Galaxy ZM. Catch you on the next one.